WWE has met with a former AEW tag team ahead of SummerSlam. Multiple NXT names have appeared in TNA, and we've got more details on the Britt Baker AEW suspension situation. Stay tuned for all the details. So it's SummerSlam tonight, and obviously there's always a lot of rumor going on in and around any of the big tentpole events every year. But as per a report from PW Insider, WWE have met with Matt and Jeff Hardy in Cleveland, Ohio yesterday morning, which is of course the site of SummerSlam tonight. But it's currently unknown what was discussed in the meeting, but reportedly they filmed content that's going to be airing through WWE Digital. A report from Fightful Select then went on to reveal that the Hardys were in town for WrestleCon and were invited by WWE to film interviews and content for active series, as well as potential Hardy-specific presentations. The report then notes that both Matt and Jeff are still working for TNA, but they're working there without a contract. They do have currently dates set with the company, and are enjoying their time there, but those in WWE told Fightful that there isn't much to read into with the meeting. However, sources outside WWE, of course, are kind of all pointing toward the Hardys making appearances on WWE TV.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they do. I don't think they'll be on SummerSlam. Obviously, TNA has had tapings, which we'll get to soon.
Yeah.
I feel like they'll be making appearances there rather than appearing at SummerSlam. But the fact that, you know, that they're free agents at the moment, they're arguably one of the top free agent tag teams at the moment.
It's the Hardys, right?
It's the Hardys.
People want to see the Hardys, regardless of whatever you think of the Hardys. Currently, they're always going to be a draw to fans. And again, more casual fans, more lapsed viewers. Whenever they pop back up, I've got mates who never watch wrestling going, "Oh, right, I'm going to tune in." So yeah.
And you mentioned NXT though, and I think would actually be a really, really good spot for them. Yeah. Bring them in as part of this TNA WWE crossover.
The window's cracked open, so they can always clamber in, can't they?
They've got a lot of expertise that I think they could give to those young tag teams. I'm thinking like Axiom, Nathan Fraser.
Yeah,
you've got the Rascals, which they kind of work with in TNA, but having Wesley involved and Zachary Wentz there, you've got those tag teams there.
Team Extreme Give Back.
Exactly. But also, I feel like the Hardy Boys, they're so big that they could have that Awesome Truth run last year.
Yeah, I can see that as well. They're big enough that I reckon main roster wouldn't be out of the question, but it would be interesting to see potentially something there. But at the same time, again, not to read too much into it if WWE is correct on that front. It's just cool that they're filming content. You got to think that there's they've done small presentations involving TNA before. The Hardys have such a legacy that no doubt there's going to be a need for interviews with them and content in and around them and about them, right? So
for sure, like that, as you mentioned, the history there, they've got so much they could do. I'm intrigued though. Do we think they're going to appear on TV soon?
I reckon they'll pop up at some point, but I don't think we're going to see them tonight. No. If we see them tonight, then fair play. Now, moving over to, as Fraser mentioned, TNA had some tapings going on, so there are spoilers about to come up. So if you would like to avoid the spoilers, there is a time code on the screen right now. Code. Ooh, magical. Skip ahead to this time. You've got 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Right, spoilers. Let's go. So during last night's TNA Impact Tapings, 3 NXT names all made appearances for the company, including Gallus's Wolfgang, Chase U's Riley Osborne, and Dante Chen. Wolfgang's obviously just been involved with the feud with Joe Hendry. They've just kind of kicked that off. So it makes sense that that's going to bleed over to both sides.
You would hope that would.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But Wolfgang's somebody who, again, Joe Hendry's very familiar with, has a past with. This all kind of can spin off into, I guess, a singles feud if needs be, but I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing Gallus maybe appearing as a whole across both companies.
Obviously he came out as Gallus, his Wolfgang with all the stuff, but we're not quite sure exactly what he did.
Back to like 2017.
And it's nice to see some quote unquote bigger names from NXT appearing in TNA, particularly Wolfgang. Riley Osborne's been getting a big push in NXT as part of Chase U. So it's nice to see those people making an appearances over there and giving back to TNA.
It's been one of those criticisms that we've been seeing is, yes, WWE and TNA's working relationship's interesting, but TNA seems to be giving so much while getting very little back. But this is hopefully a good sign of things to come. And it does sound like with the Joe Hendry news, the fact that the companies have reached some sort of deal where they're both going to kind of arrive and agree on it, that maybe we're going to see more of this moving forward. So hopefully that window is going to stay ajar a little bit longer and we get a bit more bleed, because it'd be nice to see some main roster people get over there at some point. Come on, AJ, please.
Styles,
AJ,
please.
Before you retire,
he told
please,
us
just one more time.
He told us at Classic Castle he wanted it. Oh, come on, AJ.
Well, on the same tapings, they weren't the only WWE adjacent name that appeared because Zion Quinn, formerly Zion Quinn, former WWE star, made his debut at the tapings as well. This is, of course, Daniel Vidot, former Australian rugby league player. Incredible agility, incredible athlete. And he was somebody that, while I wasn't surprised he was released from the company because it's sort of, they weren't really doing much with him.
Yeah.
He was somebody that I saw a lot of potential upside in if you just invested the right time and story in him. So TNA feels like it's going to be somewhere that he's going to excel, right?
Oh, 100%. He was on the main roster for a while. He got drafted as a free agent back in April 2023. He appeared twice, one time losing to Braun Breaker in 6 seconds, which, as Sam said, he was an athletic specimen. And the fact that he was losing I mean, it's Braun Breaker, who was also...
It takes a special level of mental to play rugby league in the first place, but the physicality of it is especially Australian rugby league. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, we're unsure right now whether he is joining TNA full time or whether this is just a one-off appearance. But he was there as Zion Quinn. He was there as a wrestler wrestling a match. So maybe this is a future in TNA.
Yeah. Well, also in the future, we're going to probably start seeing more and more wrestling-based films. Now, there's been talk for a very long time about potential Vince McMahon stuff. There's been talks for a long time, though, more about a Hulk Hogan biopic. Now, this isn't quite a biopic, but it sort of is. It's like a biopic of a certain time period of Hulk's life.
Oh, for sure. So we had, as you said, there's multiple different films at one point. Hulk Hogan, there was one about him with Chris Hemsworth playing Hulk Hogan. Not quite sure where that one is. But another superhero actor is wanting to get involved and play Hulk Hogan, being Ben Affleck, aka the former Batman in the DC universe. According to a report from PW Insider, Ben Affleck is quote-unquote eyeing to play Hulk Hogan in a feature film adaptation and dramatization of the Hulk Hogan versus Gawker trial from about 10 years ago. The screenplay, based on the book Conspiracy, Peter Thiel, Hulk Hogan, Gawker, and The Anatomy of Intrigue by Ryan Holiday, was picked up by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon's production company, which is a brand new company. It's formed in November 2022, I want to say. Actors Equity. They're looking to start production of it in January 2025. Ben Affleck is Hulk Hogan.
I would be keen to see him directed as well. We know what he's capable of.
Great director.
A hell of a lot of awards. So I think that, it's got the potential to be that kind of social network vibey film where it's going to be a lot of legal proceedings. It's going to be a lot of that kind of personal life on the other sides of that. It's, of course, one of the most fascinating times in Hulk Hogan's life that then leads into an even more fascinating and controversial period in Hulk Hogan's life. But it's going to be interesting to see how it's handled, right?
100%. I do trust Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They've produced some pretty damn good
gold
films
over the years.
They're quite good at what they do.
I just never wanted him to play Batman. God damn it.
I liked him as Batman.
You're a monster. Now moving over to the other side of the fence, AEW have confirmed that Ricky the Dragon Steamboat's going to be making another appearance this coming week on AEW Dynamite. He's going to be the special guest at ringside for Jarrett versus Danielson. This is going to be Steamboat's return to AEW TV after his last appearance at Revolution. He was the special guest timekeeper for Sting's last match.
It's like in the special guest role.
Yeah, well, there were talks that they offered him a contract and stuff, and he kind of was like, nah, I'm sort of all right. But it's one of those names that I'm always happy to see pop up. Ricky Steamboat is a living legend. Any chance to see him, even out there, just sitting, being a timekeeper or just being at ringside, I'm happy to see him.
It's the Dragon watching the American Dragon. I wonder if we're going to get some more like him being like, Danielson, you can't lose at Wembley.
The presentation's crap. You need wings and you need to breathe fire.
Breathe the fire and be an ultimate babyface. None of this heel bull. Just go full babyface.
But obviously, as well, the other major story coming out of AEW yesterday was that Britt Baker had been suspended by AEW for a recent backstage incident involving MJF. Details are kind of coming out, drip, drab, and there's a little bit more here coming off the back of the story yesterday. Yeah,
this comes from Fightful. They said one person claims to Fightful that Baker cursed at Alicia Atout and wanted to kick her out of the locker room for discussing the conversation that she'd overheard. The comment argument reportedly about MJF. An argument between MJF and Baker, which resulted in MJF punching a wall right before his hour-long match then took place. This led to him being taped up more than normal with his, obviously after you've punched a wall, that's going to happen.
And he's about to go out and, it was the night of the hour-long match.
It was the night that, yeah, exactly. So he's about to go and have this hour-long match with Will Ospreay, and he's punched a wall. Now, according to Fightful sources, MJF went to the women's locker room, entered and asked to speak to Baker. They went outside, and that is where the conversation between them took place. Then Will Ospreay became involved, spoke to Baker in a conversation, but Fightful has described that as not heated. It looks like there's a lot of different viewpoints on this situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interpersonal situation by the sounds of it, and it's unfortunate when this happens, but as we said yesterday on the news, and if you are unaware of this story, of course yesterday's news covers all of this, but as we said, it's sort of, it happens from time to time in work environments, and unfortunately it can get kind of messy. So it was, the fact that an HR team was involved and everything. But the report continues on by saying it's a situation that's going to have two very different sides to it. We've asked why MJF was also not suspended, and we're told an investigation was conducted and numerous witnesses were apparently interviewed and the suspension was decided on. The claim internally from AEW was the suspension led to one side's version of the events being supported, though they've spoken to talent that claim otherwise. The issue in general is divisive, of course, and most talent they've heard from, were over it already and hope to move on, with one saying that they thought they'd left this kind of thing in the past. So,
and that's the thing. It's strange hearing it come out now, because obviously it did seem like something that AEW had kind of moved past. Obviously, it's a very personal situation, and it's just something that is blowing up.
It can have a massive knock-on effect on morale. Of course, there was the big Edge rah-rah speech about how everything was fine, which is now kind of getting bandied about by the more tribal sides of the fan base. But it's kind of, it's just one of the situations that hopefully it's resolved and everybody can move forward, and everything will be fine.
And it props to AEW though on one aspect of it being that they've got this HR team in place, they've got the disciplinary committee in place, that it allows these situations to be dealt with fairly quick. And until now, I mean, this is in hindsight now, but it's flown under the radar. That was a couple of weeks ago this incident took place. It's not like it came out immediately.
I think the last major incident was, of course, the brawl out, which was a very protracted situation. So at least this has been handled, and obviously it was nowhere near as severe, but it's not been handled in that kind of drawn out way.
Yeah, for sure.
But of course, it's SummerSlam tonight, which means there are live reactions going on here on the channel, youtube.com/Cultaholic/live from 9 p.m. UK time. We got a big old beefy pre-show.
So
early for such an early morning finish. But Adam and Andrew are going to be there with the live reactions. We'll of course have WTF. We'll have what happened at. We'll have all the standard content coming out the back end of it. There might even be some breaking news if a certain former tribal chief pops up. But keep it here with us over the course of the day. If there's any more breaking news, we will get it to you. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll catch you in a bit.